Hey everyone, this is Yvette Hampton, host of the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast, and I am so glad that you are back with me again today. I have a really special guest joining me that I've been trying to get on the podcast and trying to meet for quite some time, and I have not actually met her in person, but we've talked on the phone. Her name is Kim Sorgius, and she is the founder of the Not Consumed ministry, website, curriculum. Oh my goodness, you have so many different things going on, Kim. So welcome to the show. I am so glad to have you on with me today.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here and meet you virtually.
Yes, virtually. Isn't that fun that we can do that today? So if you could introduce yourself briefly to our audience, let them know who you are and what you do, I would love that.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I'm Kim Sorgius, and I am first and foremost mom to four amazing kiddos. They range in age from about 15 to 8, 9. He turned 9. And I get to homeschool them, which is an incredible blessing. And we'll get to talk about that probably as we get into this. And we have this amazing ministry called Not Consumed, and where our goal is to help families grow in faith so they can live not consumed by life.
I want to talk first a little bit about how you kind of got into this ministry, because your story is pretty incredible about how you started Not Consumed, why you titled it Not Consumed, and then the ministry that you have. And I know from talking with you and reading through all of your stuff that you really have a heart to get kids into the Word and to teach them all things from a biblical perspective, which is really what Schoolhouse Rocked is all about, just directing our kids towards Christ. So tell us a little bit of your story and how this whole thing came about.
Yeah, so of course it's a journey and didn't all happen overnight, but in 2009, I became a single mom, and I knew a lot of things that I wanted to keep the same. And one of them was I wanted my kids to be homeschooled. I had not started out thinking I was ever going to homeschool, which is true for a lot of people.
Yep.
But I had seen the incredible power of it as I actually started homeschooling with my nephew before I even had kids, which was a lot of fun. And I had seen it take him and bring him back up to level and be able to go back in. He lived an hour from me, so his mom would drive him an hour every day to work with me. And at the time, I was an elementary school teacher. I was teaching first grade. I had just quit after 10 years of being in the classroom, and I was getting ready to have a baby. And my nephew was going to be retained for the second time, and really his main goal was his main issue was that he was a boy, right? And he was active and he couldn't focus. Yeah, and so he had failed kindergarten and repeated that. And then in first grade, they passed him even though he wasn't ready. And then in second grade, they wanted to retain him again. And my sister called me, and I was just mad at that point. I'm like, no, because I knew the system was failing him and it wasn't fair that it was failing him. And so I'm like, bring him to me, I'll homeschool him, which I joke and say were my famous last words. Because again, was not really a homeschool believer. I didn't think that was the answer. It was just the answer in this one situation that I was in, and so we started with him, and I did like it. I really liked doing it, and it didn't take long before I started learning about resources, and I was like, wow, there's a lot out here that can help people and give moms the tools they need to do this. And then little by little, I began to kind of say, okay, maybe I'll consider this. And then when my own kids were old enough to homeschool, I started right away, and we loved it, and they were little still at that point. And then in 2009, my husband left, and when that happened, everything was turned upside down. And then I had to ask myself the big hard question of, is homeschooling really the thing that I need to do? Because of course everyone else was saying, you put the kids in school, of course, and you go back to work.
Right.
But I thought, I really felt like this is what God wanted me to do. Does that change now because my circumstances changed? And so after much soul searching, a whole lot of praying, I realized, no, actually this doesn't change, because what I really didn't want to give up was the time with them. I knew that if I put them in school, I would see them like ships passing in the night, and that was all I was going to get from them, because I would have to work. And then, my degree is a teacher. And if you've ever been a teacher or known a teacher, the job is like never ending. And, you teach all day long, you come home, you've got papers to grade and you've got meetings that have to happen. And my kids would have homework. And I just thought, we can't be together. We won't have a together as much as I really want. And so I just began praying that God would provide a way for me to stay home and keep homeschooling, and which seemed like a crazy dream. And I know you probably have people listening right now that think that exact thing. That's a crazy, how could you even do that? That's not even possible. But we did. we persevered. We did, the first couple of years, there was a lot of legal stuff that we couldn't solve. And we did live on some government assistance there for a period of time, because that's what it's there for. When you get in a situation that you can't control, that you can't do anything about, you use it. And that was very helpful to me, because I had a newborn and I really couldn't work anyway. And there was just so much that needed to happen in order for me to go back to work, because my certificate had lapsed and all this stuff. And it gave me an ample opportunity to really consider, okay, what can I do to possibly provide for my family? And someone told me that you could make a little money blogging, and I didn't need a lot of money. I just needed enough, And so I started a little blog. Through a lot of prayer. I just, the trouble that I had was, well, how am I going to make money with this? And I'm not really a writer, and I'm not really at all good with technology. And I can check my email kind of, and I can reboot the computer. Like, that was really my skill set. And so I thought, blogging is way over my head. This is probably, something that's for someone else. And I really felt like God said, no, this is for you. And I want you to do this. And people just how sometimes little people who don't even know they're speaking life, just say little things here and there. Mm-hmm. And there were people here and there that were like, I really like your blog. I had a little blog, by the way, on Blogspot with pictures of my kids, and that I mostly was doing for my relatives, because we were living pretty far from them, and they like to keep up with the kids. And so I'd put all kinds of pictures, and then I would give commentary, because it seemed weird to just put pictures. And then my friends would read it, because I would share it on Facebook so that my family could see it. And then friends would say it. And then here and there, my friends would comment, "You're a good writer." I thought, I am? Okay. And so I just used those little people, not little people, but those little phrases from people who probably never thought, that they were, sharing that with me for any other reason besides just encouragement, to say, hey, this is what I want you to do. And just kind of kept paving that road for me to go down it. And then I just prayed that he would. So then once I got to the point where I was like, okay, a blog is what we're going to do, I just prayed that God would show me what to call it. And I really wanted, above all, to encourage people. And I had what I thought was a white picket fence dream, and it was shattered. And it put me in a place where I had to think, how do you figure out what's important in life? And how do you get through hard things in life? And what are the answers to those things? And of course, I knew the answer was God, but I didn't know how to practically make that happen. Mm-hmm. And as I was dealing with trying to figure out, well, why don't I practically know how this is supposed to work? I realized it's because growing up, I didn't learn that. And although I was, in a church 3 times a week, I didn't get the discipleship that I needed. I didn't get the tools. I had no idea how to read God's word or get anything out of it. Like, I just didn't know those things. And I quickly realized, okay, this is what I need to know. And this is what my kids need to know, because they have to weather the storm too, whether the storm is a divorce or, anything else, even down to things like, we're not going to this event today because it's raining, and you just rain on your parade. Haha. And, like those are major life things for kids. Like, that's a big deal, and they have to learn how to deal with those. And the only way to do that is to really know what God's word has to say. So that's what we started. And that was kind of the path that I pursued. And we just started creating resources with that in mind, because I wanted to help kids, wanted to help moms help kids, because I didn't feel like there were enough resources for me to do that. Mm-hmm. And so it was really out of a lack of what I needed that I couldn't find. And I was like, well, somebody needs to provide this because we need to help our kids, and no one's doing that.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's the long story.
No,
Pretty
that's it.
short story.
That's a great story. You are such a beautiful example of God's faithfulness. Your testimony is amazing, because to do something like what you've done and to take a situation that could have, I mean, it drastically changed your family, obviously, but even in that transition, if you had put your kids in school, that would have been even more traumatic for them. Um, but you trusted the Lord to provide what he needs. And we talk about this on the podcast all the time. If God's calling you to homeschool, he's going to provide all that you need in order to do it, and to do it well. And to do it well does not mean to do it perfectly, because none of us can do it perfectly. But to be able to do what he's called you to do, to the best of your ability, and then to just trust him to fill in all the gaps. And so you trusted him, not just in your homeschooling, but you trusted him with his provision for your family, which is just an amazing faith journey that you have been on. And I know he's really blessed you through that, and not just blessed you, but blessed countless people through the ministry that he's called you to.